In the tiny settlement of Taylor's End, where dusty roads wound like ribbons through thatched huts and brick houses, lived a young girl named Elara. Taylor's End was not on any map. It was a place people spoke of only in passing. A sleepy hamlet on the edge of the sprawling kingdoms of Arduman and Severus. You could lose a day here simply by wandering through its winding alleys and forgotten lanes. Elara's home was one room with crumbling clay walls and a roof that threatened to collapse with every winter wind. Her mother, Marisol, was once a seamstress famed in the neighboring market town for her exquisite needlework, but tragedy had turned her hands timid and slow. Grief was a heavier burden than any tapestry she had ever made. Each morning, Elara would step out barefoot into the muddy street, her gambling laughter a bright contrast to the dreariness of her surroundings. She wore a dress pieced together from leftover cloth, faded greens from silk scraps and browns from old wool shirts. In Taylor's End, such garb was considered mere rag, yet Elara wore it with proud strides, as though it were spun of gold and diamonds. She had an eye most rare. Where others saw ragged edges, she saw possibility. Where others saw muted color, she saw harmony. A mockingbird that perched upon her windowsill once asked, "Child of the sown earth, why do you smile so?" And she answered, "Because the world is thread and cloth and color, and I can stitch them into wonder." People in the village called her odd or dreamy, but some whispered that she was blessed by the muse of textiles, herself, an eccentric magic. No one could describe except to say that her imagination spanned realms beyond Taylor's End. Her only friend, aside from her mother, was Finn, a boy whose quick mind and silent empathy matched her boundless creativity. Finn had known hardship too, for his mother had passed when he was very small, and his father worked the fields from dawn until dusk. Yet Finn never brought bitterness into the air. Instead, he offered sturdy warmth, much like summer sun filtering. Through looming gray clouds. To the others, Elara was a poor girl in ragged clothes, but to Finn, she was a spark, and to her mother, she was a reminder of better days and sweeter dreams. Every year, the great market festival of Severus drew people from villages, towns, and hamlets alike. Bakers flaunted honeyed loaves, potters displayed wares with painted suns and moons, and minstrels carried the songs of distant lands upon their tongues. Marisol and Elara had never been able to attend. Festival loss was part of the cost of survival, but this year something was different. Elara, her mother whispered one dawn, "I have a bolt of velvet, deep maroon, soft as dusklight. Take it to the festival. Sell what you can. Learn what you must. There is opportunity out there." Elara stared. This velvet was precious, a treasure by Taylor's End standards, and every fiber seemed stitched with hope she had never dared to speak aloud. Finn stood by the door, offering a sturdy backpack and an encouraging grin. "You'll shine. Out there like sunrise on silver water," he said. "You can do this." With her mother's blessing and Finn's support, Elara made her way to the festival, her heart both light and heavy as she stepped beyond Taylor's End for the first time. When she arrived, the bustling crowds overwhelmed her. Lanterns swayed. Like fireflies, merchants called out their wares, and laughter echoed through broad cobbled streets. She eyed the maroon velvet, imagining dresses and capes glowing under festival lights. She imagined possibilities, creative wonders no one had yet dreamed, but as she tried to sell a piece, merchants shook their heads. "Festival rules," they murmured. "Only licensed sellers." Elara felt her stomach fall. The velvet was everything she had. She was about to turn back, empty-minded and forlorn, when a voice called out, "You there, child?" She turned to see a woman in clothes that shimmered with every hue of twilight. Her eyes were kind, yet piercing, as though she could see the threads of one's soul. "You have an eye for cloth," the woman said. "Your heart is in line with color and form." Elara blinked, startled. "Why are you here?" The woman asked gently. Before she could answer, a group of noble ladies swept past, giggling as they eyed Elara's patched dress. One of them poked fun openly. "Look, a ragged clown pretending to be merchant." Most would have wilted under such scorn, but not Elara. She lifted her chin and met their laughter with calm dignity. The woman observed this quiet confidence and smiled. "Creativity is the language of belief, child." She introduced herself as Lady Seraphine, a patron. of design and artistry. Lady Seraphine saw in Elara a rare gift, not merely talent, but vision coupled with courage. She proposed a challenge, a design showcase, held in Severus once every decade, where emerging designers competed for a chance to apprentice in the royal atelier where couture garments were born and stitched into dreams. Elara's heart thundered within her chest. The contest was a storied tradition with high stakes, often won by seasoned apprentices, not wandering village children. Still, Lady Seraphine offered a chance to participate if Elara could present one original creation by sunrise. Ela or knew this was her moment. She accepted. Returning to her small room that night, she laid out the maroon velvet, scraps of silk, and shards of thread she had collected over the years. She worked by lamplight and moonbeam, weaving imagination into form, guided by pure inspiration. Hours passed, a record of it, until the piece was complete. A gown that sparkled with subtle stitches, a design that whispered of resilience and grace, and dreams wound tight with courage. When Finn saw the creation, he breathed, "It's not just a gown, it's a story." At dawn, Elara carried her creation to the contest grounds, palms trembling under both fear and fierce hope. Rows of contestants stood with dresses and garments more elaborate than any Elara had seen. Fabrics shimmered like lightning and ran like rivers, embroidered with gemstones and patterns that seemed to move. Elara closed her eyes briefly, grounding herself. Then she unveiled her creation. Gasps rippled through the crowd, not mocking, but awe-struck. Never had anyone seen such beauty, woven from humble beginnings and simple threads. Even the judges, masters of textile and fashion, leaned in, their eyes widening with appreciation. Lady Seraphine was beside her, whispering, "You've captured the soul of design, not just its form." When the judges announced the winners, Elara stood in silence, the world seeming to freeze around her. Then, in voices ringing like bells, they called her name. A cheer erupted. Elara's creation had not merely won, it had captivated the entire assembly. Yet her victory did not begin with applause. It began with courage. The courage to see beauty where others saw rags. Elara became an apprentice in the royal atelier, a place where silk whispered secrets and threads sang like choirs. She learned from master designers whose hands had shaped garments for queens. She learned about balance, proportion, rhythm, and subtlety. Yet most of all, she learned herself how to blend spirit with stitch and courage with creativity. Lady Seraphine became her mentor and friend, guiding her through challenges and triumphs. Finn often visited, bringing news from Taylor's End, and sharing laughter with the atelier apprentices. Every piece Elara designed carried her heart's echo, stories of humble beginnings and dreams that refused to be silent. Her creations were not merely beautiful garments. They were messages, woven poems about resilience, hope, and transformation. A year later, Severus hosted its grandest fashion event, a runway showcasing talents from across kingdoms. Elara's collection, inspired by the winds of Taylor's End, the whispers of dusk, and the sun's embrace at dawn, was the keynote of the show. The runway lights cast gentle radiance upon her designs. Silks shimmered like moonlit water, velvet danced with starlight, and embroidery hinted at tales too profound for simple words. When her final piece, the luminary gown, walked the stage, the audience was silenced into awe. Critics praised her innovation, kings applauded her vision, and young creatives watched with eyes wide in wonder. Elara's story, from rags to the runway, was no longer a whispered legend. It was a living testament that dreams, if nurtured with courage and heart, can indeed transform worlds. Though she had gained wealth and acclaim, Elara remembered the dusty lanes of Taylor's End and those who had never known luxury. With Finn and Lady Seraphine, she returned home, not as a visitor, but as a bearer of new life for her people. She built a design school in Taylor's End, offering training, opportunity, and dreams to young creatives who had always been overlooked. Children who once wore patched clothes now learned the artistry of textiles. Women who had never dreamed of apprenticeships now found respect, craft, and joy. Taylor's End blossomed into a creative hub, a place where talent was recognized, nurtured, and celebrated. Elara's mother, once slowed by sorrow, gained new purpose, guiding students with gentle hands and insightful wisdom. Finn became the head of community outreach, nurturing hope and offering steadfast support to all who entered. And Elara, she did not rest on laurels. She continued to design not for fame, but for expression, storytelling, and the heartfelt celebration of beauty born of adversity. In time, Elara's name was known across kingdoms, not merely as a designer, but as an emblem of possibility. People spoke of her story, how a young girl from a forgotten village turned passion into art, into legacy. Yet Elara knew the truth better than most. Beauty is not born from wealth. It is born from courage. Clothes do not make the soul. The soul weaves the clothes. And every dream, no matter how humble its beginning, deserves its stage. She once said, "Fashion is not just threads and fabric, it is the heartbeat of who we are." And so, her legacy endured, stitched into every garment, whispered in every thread, and eternal in every dream that dared to soar beyond rags and shimmer into the runway of life.